find the bidder, optimal bidding strategy, let me stick to bidder 1. So I want to find bidder 1's optimal strategy, B1 stuff. Same idea as before. Looking if bidder 1 bids B1, I know he subjects himself to a lottery. Lottery means he might win or lose. Winning gives him a payoff of B1 minus B1. Losing gives him a payoff of 0. Therefore, the expected payoff of bidding B1 when other guys are bidding B2, Bn is given as the probability I will win with a bid of B1 times the payoff from B1 minus B1. The reason I am discussing this is for a purpose. Probability of winning with a bid of B1, the same idea. Probability B1 greater than B2, intersection B1 greater than B3, intersection intersection B1 greater than Bn. I must be the highest bidder if I am to win this auction. Okay, I must be the highest. And the next step, since bids are independently distributed, why? Because valuations are independently distributed. Therefore, you write it as B1 greater than B2 times probability B1 greater than B3 times probability B1 greater than Bn. Next step, you have a problem here. You don't know how to get an expression for this. You need an expression to use calculus. Don't know how to get an expression for this. So you have to somehow make use of this distribution. This is the distribution in valuations. You have to replace these fellas with their respective values. That's where the belief comes. Every bidder believes that the other bidder is bidding a fraction of it. Doing that, replacing this and making B the subject of the formula, you will get this. Probability B1 less than B1 over F times probability B1 less than B1 less than B2 less than B1 over F, B3 less than B1 over F. Same idea as before, okay? Probability Bn less than B2. Okay, so you know there are n minus 1 terms here. Each of the terms will be the same. I just want to focus on what is this term. Okay, so B1 over F again, arbitrarily chosen value, B1 over F. I am looking at the probability that a randomly drawn bidder has a valuation that is less than B1 over F. In other words, I am looking at the ratio of this line segment over this line segment. Now, notice that because your valuation does not start from 0, this fellow will be B1 over F minus L. Okay, the length of this line segment is B1 over F minus L. And the length of this line segment is no longer 1 minus 0 equal to 1, is BH minus L. Okay, BH. Therefore, the probability of this fellow here is simply B1 over F minus BL over BH minus BL. This is the problem. How many values are there? N minus 1, N minus 1 times B1 minus. Got it? This is my expected bid. Okay? The reason why I am doing this is for you to be able to notice that once I change the distribution, don't memorize, okay, how the derivation is done. Rather, see exactly what is going on. So once I change the bounds of the distribution, the probabilities values for these fellas change also. Alright. Then your next step is very clear for you. You know what you're going to do. You're going to differentiate this with respect to B1 set it equal to 0 and solve for B1 star. Okay? Done for you in your lecture notes. And just one for any bidder. I star for any bidder is BL over N plus S minus 1 over N BR. This is the optimal bidding strategy in the general. Now, notice something. Suppose I had 4 bidders. Let me give you an example. What does this mean? I had 4 bidders, uniform uniformly distributed between say 0 and 10. 0 and 10. 4 bidders uniformly distributed between 0 and 10. Then for since I am using a general distribution, let us say 2 to 10. 2 to 10. And I am a bidder, I am the fourth bidder. Then my bidding, I had, this is the uniform distribution between 2 to 10. Say I had n is equal to 4 bidders. I am going to show you how to calculate formula number 4. Okay? Now again, B1 star derived by calculus, the optimal bidding strategy for bidder 1 is given as this. Okay? Now, for someone who doesn't know calculus, let me see how to derive formula, the optimal bidding strategy using formula number 4. Notice, because this formula presumes that you are not starting at 0, then you cannot use our other simpler method. You have to stick to formula number 4. So what will I do? Say for bidder 1, I am determining what is his optimal bidding strategy. I will say, hey guys, you assume that your bid is the highest, B1, and look for the next highest bid in this distribution. Look for the next highest bid in this distribution. So, formula number 4, write it down. K is BL plus n plus 1 minus K over n plus 1 BH minus BL. Okay, this is formula number 4, right? So what am I looking for? I am assumed that I am the highest bidder here. I am looking for the next highest fellow here. How many fellows are there? There are n minus 1 fellows. N minus 1 fellows. If there are n minus 1 fellows here, that means n is equal to n minus 1. N minus 1. I am looking for the highest in this distribution because bidder 1 is from here. I am looking for the highest in this distribution. Therefore, K is equal to 1. BL remains as BL, no problem. This is my BL. BH, the highest bound, becomes because I am looking at this distribution. It becomes, using that, I know this. BL plus n is n minus 1 plus 1 minus 1, n is n minus 1 plus 1, BH is B1, sorry, minus BL. This is what I said. So I get BL plus n minus 1 over n, B1 minus BL. And this, you will get BL minus, just breaking this term up, minus BL times n minus 1 over n plus B1 n minus 1 over n. Okay, I've just broken this term down. Simplify this, you will get n BL minus n BL plus BL over n plus B1 n minus 1. Formula number 4 gives you exactly the same bidding strategy that you should be using, that you derive using calculus. Okay, that's an important one. Whenever a bidder comes to you and asks, how should I bid? You can tell him to go find his expected payoff function, differentiate it, set it equal to 0 and find B1 star. Or you can tell him to assume that his valuation is the highest and look for the expected next highest valuation in the truncated distribution. Either way is going to work. Okay? Either way is going to work. Okay? This I am going to suspend for a later part. This example, hang on to a while. I'll give it to you. Alright, so what have I shown you? I have shown you that in the most general case, the Nash equilibrium in bidding strategies is VI star. You can substitute I is equal to 1, 2, 3, Okay, if you wanted, you could just break it down into B1, B2, B3, B4, comma, comma, comma. That would be your land equilibrium set. Now, the question I want to ask you is, in this most general case, therefore, what will happen to the equilibrium outcome of this option? What will happen to the equilibrium outcome? Clearly, the equilibrium outcome of this option, this is the equilibrium set of strategies. When bidders use their equilibrium set of strategies, it will turn out that the guy who will win the auction is the guy with the highest value. Notice, this is a constant. DL is the same for every bidder. N is the same for every bidder. This is a constant. This is the same fraction for every bidder and multiplied by the bidder's own valuation. So if every bidder is bidding a constant plus some fraction of his valuation, the same fraction, the guy who will submit the highest bid must be the guy with the highest value. This is a constant for everyone, this is a constant for everyone. Only thing that varies between bidders is this. Therefore, the highest bid will be by the bidder with the highest value. This will be the. Therefore, the guy who will win the auction in this most general case in a first price sealed bid auction will be the guy with the highest valuation. Highest valuation. Whatever that guy's valuation is, he will bid exactly equal. Exactly equal. He will bid an amount that is exactly equal to this formula. He will just substitute PI there with his own valuation. That will be the price that will be realized in the first price. Those are the equilibrium outcomes. Okay. So guys, time for a quick summary. We have second price sealed bid auction and first price sealed bid auction here. Bid auction. The equilibrium set of strategies for n bidders. VI star, you can replace I is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is equal to VI. Bidders have a dominant strategy that is to bid their own valuation. In a first price sealed bid auction, on the other hand, the equilibrium strategy for any bidder is VL over N plus N minus 1 over N VI. These are the equilibrium set of strategies, the difference between the equilibrium. Now, what is the difference between the equilibrium outcomes again? Let us check. Equilibrium outcomes, I am concerned with two things. Who wins the auction and what is the price that he pays? What is the price that he pays? The equilibrium outcome, who wins the auction here? If every bidder is bidding his valuation, clearly the guy who will win the auction is the guy with the highest valuation. No question. No question. Similarly, I have just asked you who will win the auction here. Same thing. The guy with the highest valuation will make the bid, highest bid, and he will win. The winner will be the guy with the highest valuation here and the highest valuation. And from that, I conclude that both auction forms, whether it is a first price auction or a second price auction, both auctions are efficient. By efficient, I mean that both auctions are such that in equilibrium, the guy who wins is the guy who values the good the most. If an auction delivers the good to the guy with the highest valuation for the good, then we call an auction efficient. That is the definition of the efficiency of an auction. Okay? An auction is efficient if it gives the good to the guy with the highest valuation. Okay, so we have figured out who the winner is. Winner is this, winner is this, say. Okay, and this is regardless of any auction. Okay, so if you just select, if this is my Monday class, this is my Monday class. In Monday class, you know that B1, B2, B3, these are the guys in my Monday class. These are their valuations. The guys who will win will be this. Okay, the guys who will win. Now, this is my Monday class as well. If I had conducted a first price sealed bid auction here, again, the guys who will win will be no difference. Same guy. The other thing, I'm auctioning with sunglasses on the Monday class. The other thing I need to know is what is the equilibrium factor. is the equilibrium price in the auction? Now, notice this. If I am conducting my auction in the Monday class, every of these bidders, there are n bidders, every of these bidders will submit a bid equal to their valuation. So this is bidder 1's bid, this is bidder 2's bid, this is bidder n's bid. This guy will win, but will he pay this price? No. Second price auction, he pays the second highest bid. What is the second highest bid? This is the second highest bid. Therefore, the price that is generated in a second price sealed bid auction using my Monday class is the okay. Now, come to the first price auction. Suppose I am conducting a first price auction on my sunglasses for the Monday class. Okay, here. I have already established the guy who will win. This is the guy with the highest value. What is the price he will pay? Whatever he bids. Whatever he bids. The price he will pay is whatever he bids. It's the first price in the auction. So in order to find the equilibrium price, I have to figure out how much this guy will bid to begin with. How much this guy will bid. So I have, what is the optimal bidding strategy? The optimal bidding strategy is this here. Therefore, this guy will bid, he will just substitute BI with his own valuation. Therefore, the price will be BY star, B1 star. The first guy will BL over N plus N minus 1 over N B. Got it? This is the equilibrium price in the first price. In my Monday class. Sold the sunglasses via auction in my Monday class. This is the price I get. So I sold these sunglasses by auction in my Monday class. Second price sealed bid. This is the price I get this time. From a seller's point of view, it is important to know which auction will generate a higher revenue. Which auction mechanism will generate a higher price for it. Okay, compare. This is the equilibrium price in the second price sealed bid auction. This is the equilibrium price in a first price sealed bid auction with the same group of people. Which price is higher? Is this higher or is this higher? Which one is higher? The idea is you can't tell. There's no way to compare. This term does not even appear in this formula. How do I compare this? How do I compare? I don't know. The answer is I don't know. Right? So this B2 could be higher depending on what B2 is, or this color could be higher depending on what B1 is. Could be higher. Anyone could. And to make that broad point, so I am saying that if you focus only on one particular group of people, one particular sample for the auction, you can't tell whether the second price auction will give you a higher price or the first price auction will give you a higher price. You can't. And this is a very, very important result. You can't tell. For any particular auction, you can't tell whether the second price auction will give you a higher price or a first price auction. To make the point clearer, notice this. Notice this. Give you a small example just to make the equation equal. Because this is an important point. Suppose n is equal to 2. You are only looking at 2 bidders. Okay? 2 bidders. N is equal to 2. And my Monday class has 2 students. My Monday class has 2 students. So I want to conduct the second price auction. The valuations B1 and B2, I'm giving you fictitious examples. Say my Monday class, the valuations are this. Here. The valuations are 0.75 and 0.20. One of the bidders has a valuation 0.75. I'm assuming uniformly drawn distribution, uniformly drawn valuations between 0 and 1. So in my Monday class, there is a guy who has a valuation 0.75, another guy has a valuation 0.2. N is equal to 2. Now let me see what happens if I conduct a first price auction. Let's start with second price, easier. Second price auction, this guy will bid this. Bidder's dominant strategy is to bid valuation. This guy will bid this. This guy will win. What will be the price? The price in a second price seal bid option will be 0.2 here. On the other hand, if I conducted a first price seal bid option in my Monday class, then the guy who will win will still be the guy with the highest valuation. I have shown you this. The price that I will get in a first price seal bid option is whatever he will bid with two bidders, standard uniformly distributed values. You already know that the optimal bid is to bid half your valuation. We showed this at the beginning of the lecture. So if my valuation is 0.75, I will bid half of that. Therefore, I will have to pay that amount. First price option 0.3. Half of 0.3. Which gives me a higher? Price? First price option. In this particular option, if I conduct my option in the Monday class, first price option gives me a higher price. Now see what happens if I conduct the option in the Tuesday class. And as it turns out, my Tuesday class, the two fellas in my Tuesday class have valuations of this. 0.75 and 0.5. These are the valuations in my Tuesday. Quite possible. These are the two guys with these valuations in my Tuesday. Therefore, if I conduct a second price seal bid option, this guy will win. But what is the price he will pay? He will pay second highest bid. So PSESB will be 0.1. On the other hand, if I conducted a first price auction, this guy will win. And how much will he bid? Because that will be my price. That price will be 0.75. That's half of 0.375. Which gives you a higher price? Second price. The idea is, essential idea, I can't overemphasize how important this idea of distinction is. If you are conducting the two auctions on a given selection of bidders, Monday class or Tuesday class or Wednesday class or Thursday class, if you are conducting your auction on a given sample of bidders, there is no guarantee which auction will give you as your depending on what your sample is, depending on who your bidders are, depending on what their valuations are, either the first price auction could give you a higher price or a second price auction could give you a higher price. Can't tell. Important. So therefore, when a seller wants to compare the two auction formats to determine which auction format generates a higher price, he really couldn't be asking this question. Oh, which auction format will give me a higher price for the Monday auction? No way he could be asking the question because there is no way to answer the question. So his question really is, on average, not for any particular class, but on average, which auction generates the higher revenue? That is the important question. Not for a particular group of bidders, which auction generates the higher revenue. That's a useless question. I don't know. I want to find out on average which auction gives me the highest, the higher revenue on average. So, what the seller wants to do is to compare not the price of second price seal bid auction or the price in any particular first price seal bid auction. He doesn't want to compare this. He wants to compare the expected price that he can get in a second price. First price. To use my metaphor of the lecture group, if I want to know if I conduct a first price auction in my Monday group, Tuesday group, Thursday group, Wednesday group and Friday group. Similarly, if I conduct a second price auction in my Monday group, Tuesday group, Wednesday group, Thursday group, Friday group, on average, where will I get a higher revenue? That's what I'm interested in. On average, which auction will give me a higher revenue? And how do I find that? Very simple. Look, this is an important, you would be thinking, second price seal bid auction, first price seal bid auction, right? The buyers, the bidders there are using different equilibrium strategies. The equilibrium strategies in the two kinds of auction formats are different. the expected revenue for the expected price. Okay, pay attention. In a second price seal bid auction, I know that I will get the second highest valuation, right? Everyone bids their valuation, so I know that in any particular auction, I'll get the second highest valuation as my price. That will be the price. But I am not looking for the price in any particular auction, rather, I am looking for the expected second highest valuation. Average, on average, what is the second highest valuation? What is the second highest valuation over my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday price? That's what I'm looking for. What is the average valuation for all of them? And this, ladies and gentlemen, you know, is nothing but expected second highest valuation. Into formula number 4, expected second highest valuation. Expected second highest valuation. Therefore, use my formula number 2 to find out what happens in a second price. Formula number 2 is here. Here, VL plus N plus 1 minus K over N plus 1 VH minus DL. This is formula number 4. Okay, formula number 4. And this is, I'm looking for the expected second highest valuation, which means K is equal to VL remains low, the low value of the distribution, VH remains the high value of the distribution. This is VL, okay, and I'm placing N guys here, and I'm looking for the second highest, first highest here, second. So I put N is equal to 2, and I find out this gives me VL plus N minus 1, and there are N guys in this. N guys. I'm looking for the expected on average. Where is the second highest? N guys. On average, I'm looking for the second. Okay. So K is equal to 2, VH remains VH, VL remains VL, N is equal to N. N plus 1 minus 2 gives me N minus 1. Then N plus 1 is here, VH. Okay, guys. On average, this is the valuation of the second highest chart. Therefore, on average, this is the price I will receive from a second price seal bid auction. This is the seller's revenue on average from a second price. Okay. If you were easy example, suppose there were 4 bidders. Look, there are 4. All of my class groups, Mondays to Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, have 4 students in them. 4 fellows. And their valuations are distributed, say, between 0 and 10. 0 and 10. Now you know, once the valuation starts from 0, you can break this, you can find out the expected second highest valuation by breaking this line segment between 0 and 10 into 5 parts, 4 plus 1, 5 parts, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 0.10. The expected highest valuation is here, which is 0.8. And the expected second highest valuation is here, which is 0.6. Therefore, on average, if I conducted a second price auction, 4 bidders uniformly distributed between 0 and 10, I'll get this. Okay. Just substitute the value for 0 and 10 in here, N is equal to 4 in here, you will get the same result, 0.6. Okay. Now, let us look at what happens in the first price auction. So I have figured this one. The expected price in the second price auction. And in our particular example, now let's look at what happens to the expected price in the first price. Expected price in the first price. Okay. In the first price sale bid auction, I am thinking of what will be the expected price in a first price sale bid auction. And I know this much. In a first price seal bid auction, the guy who will win will be the guy with the highest valuation, Whatever he bids, that will be my price. That will be my price. But there is a problem to begin with. Who is the guy with the highest valuation? Clearly, the guy with the highest valuation will differ from the Monday class, Tuesday class, Wednesday class, Thursday class, Friday class. In each of these classes, there will be a different highest valuation. So first, in order to find the price in a first price steel bid auction, I have to figure out, on average, what is the valuation of the guy that will win the auction. Okay? Because the valuation of the guy that will win the auction differs from class to class. I have to first figure out, on average, what is the valuation of the guy who will win the auction. Who will win the auction. In other words, if this is my distribution again, between BL and BH, I am looking for, on average, who is the highest guy? Who is the highest? Who will win the auction on average? What will be his valuation? Okay, this fellow can differ. The highest valuation can differ from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I am not concerned about any particular day of auction. I am looking for the average. Therefore, I am first looking for, on average, what will be the valuation of the guy who will win the auction. And notice, to do that, I am going to use my formula number 4 again. I am looking for the highest valuation amongst n bidders here, n bidders with BL and BA. So the only thing that changes in my formula, K is equal to 1. BL plus n plus 1 minus 1 over n plus 1. Okay. Got it. Who is this? What is this number? What is this number telling me? This number tells you, on average, this is the valuation of the guy who will win the auction. This is the valuation of the guy who will win the auction. But is this your price? This is not my price. My price is whatever this guy will pay. This guy will pay. This is the valuation of the fellow who will win the auction. He won't bid this valuation. This is the first price auction. What is the price he will pay? You know that as well. You know that as well. You know that. How? This is your valuation. How do I ask you to bid? I say, assume that your valuation is here. Yes. From yourself here. From yourself here. Then look for the next highest valuation. In this shrunken distribution. In other words, how many fellas are here now if you are plotting yourself here? N minus 1 fellas. And you are looking for the highest fella in this distribution. So you are looking for K is equal to 1. Your BL remains the same. And your BH is now this. Therefore, you use formula number. Remember, what I am trying to do now is to figure out a guy with a valuation is how much is he going to pay. That's what I am going to do. That's what I am trying to do. So I use formula number 4 again. With K is equal to 1, N is equal to N minus 1, BL is equal to BL, and BH is equal to this. This is the upper bound. This is where I ask for. And if this sounds a bit strange to you or a bit confusing, there is another way. The other way looks at the fact that you have already determined your optimal bidding strategy for a generalized auction. You have already determined an optimal bidding strategy. Here. When you, in the most general case, your optimal bidding strategy given to you on, I have already found that out, but I can't do that. Given to you on page top of page 13 of your lecture. That optimal bidding strategy is just this. For any bidder, in a general n-player auction, the bidding strategy is BL over N plus N minus 1 over N BI. Now notice I can also use this to determine how much a guy with this valuation will get. Why am I focusing on a guy with this valuation? Because this is the average highest value. On average, the guy who will win will have this valuation. So all I need to do is take this here and plonk it in. This is the valuation of the guy who will win the auction. Let's go. And I can guarantee you, when you do that, as I have shown in your lecture notes, the answer that you get will be exactly the same. Just have to put this here and simplify, you will get this 100%. If it doesn't, don't believe me, let me show you an example. It's done in your lecture notes. Okay? Now, here, I am going to use the same example here. 4 bidders between 0 and 10. I want to find out on average what will be the price in a first price seal bid auction. I know with the second price seal bid auction it was 0.6. Let's look at what happens with the first price. 0 to 10. So I ask myself, there are 4 bidders here. I ask myself, so Monday group has 4 bidders, Tuesday group has 4 bidders, all the way till Friday, every group has 4 bidders. I ask myself, I know that the valuations will differ from Monday to Friday groups. All the groups will have different valuations. On average, what will be the valuation of the guy who will win the auction? On average. So, I say on average, where are the bidders? Go right 5, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0. I know. This is the guy. Okay, on average, this is the valuation of the guy who will win the auction. This is the average. Therefore, how much is this guy going to bid? Because my price will be how much ever this fella is going to bid. A fella with this valuation, how much is he going to bid? Same idea, you expect me to make sure that he is the first highest bidder and he bids a price equal to the next highest valuation. What is the next highest valuation? The next highest valuation is therefore, on average, second price auction and the first price auction, quite phenomenally, quite remarkably, and quite impressively, give you the same price, the same revenue. Despite the fact that bidders' bidding strategies are different in the two forms, on average, the revenue generated by the second price auction and the first price auction are equal. And this result is very famously known as the revenue equivalence theorem. So if you are a seller and you are considering whether to use a first price or a second price auction to maximize your revenue from the auction, the answer is either will do. On average, there is no way that the two auctions will generate it. On average, you will get the same revenue from the second price auction as you will get from the first auction. Not true for any particular auction, but on average, it will be. On average, if you conduct the same auction many times, both first price and second price, then you will get the same. Known as, ladies and gentlemen, the very famous revenue equivalence theorem. Okay, and in order for the revenue equivalence theorem to hold, because there are certain conditions, we will relax one of these conditions when we come back after the break, but these are the conditions. These are bidding strategies we have derived by assuming that bidders are risky. Okay, we maximize expected payoff for the bid, expected payoff. Okay, so these are bidding strategies derived by under the assumption that bidders are risk neutral. So the revenue equivalence theorem requires that bidders are risk neutral. And the revenue equivalence theorem requires that bidders with higher valuations bid more. Okay, that's what we assumed, right? We said every bidder believes that every other bidder is bidding a fraction of his valuation. The same fraction. The bidder has a higher valuation is going to bid more. That also is a requirement for the revenue equivalence theorem. Okay guys, let's take a break. Of the next section of the lecture, I am going to drop the assumption and consider what
happens to bidders' optimal bidding strategies and the equilibrium outcomes when bidders are no longer risk neutral, but when bidders are risk averse. Okay, risk averse. Now, just for comparison, remember that when bidders were risk neutral, in a first price auction, the optimal bidding strategy was to bid a fraction of the valuation. Let me consider the two-bidder case. The two-bidder case. The optimal bidding strategy was VI star is equal to VI over 2, the two-bidder case. And the optimal bidding strategy here was VI star. In a second price auction, VI star is equal to VI, your true valuation. And given that bidders use these equilibrium strategies, the equilibrium outcome were the same on average. The expected price in a first price auction was equal to the expected price in a second price auction. And the winners were the same. The guys with the highest valuation won the auction. Okay, this is a two-bidder case. Now, I want to first investigate when bidders are no longer risk neutral. Okay, when bidders are no longer risk neutral, how does their equilibrium outcome change? How does their equilibrium strategy change in a second price auction? Okay, in a second price auction, what is bidders' optimal strategy if bidders are risk averse? And I'm going to give you the result and show you that it's true as well. In a second price auction, when bidders are risk averse, I'm going to claim that the bidders' optimal strategy is still to bid their valuation. Does not change. Does not change. Okay? And why does it not change? Simple reason is this. If you bid higher than this valuation, reach your time. If you bid higher than this valuation, whatever your true valuation is, you bid higher, then you might either lose or you might win. Right? Whatever the payoff is, now listen, whatever payoff you got, we have seen this with the risk neutral case. Either when you bid higher, either you get the same payoff as you get by bidding your valuation, or you get a lower payoff. That's why this was this dominated this with risk neutral bidding. Notice what I'm saying. Either you get the same payoff, or you get a lower payoff. Now you will say, yes, Sovan, you are correct, but risk-averse bidders don't care about payoff. They care about utility. They don't care about payoff, they care about utility. And I'll tell you that, okay, listen to this sentence again. Either their payoffs are the same, or their payoff is lower by bidding a higher valuation compared to bidding their valuation. If their payoffs are the same, then what can I say about their utility? The utility function of wealth is UW. If your W is the same, the value for UW must be the. So if your payoffs are the same by bidding higher as it is true by bidding your valuation, then your utilities must also be the same. And if your utility is lower by bidding higher than your valuation compared to bidding your valuation, and if your payoff is lower, then your utility must also be lower. Therefore, I can make the claim that by bidding higher than your valuation, either you will get the same utility as bidding your valuation, or you will get a lower utility. Simply because I have already demonstrated to you in the last lecture that by bidding higher than your valuation, you will either get the same payoff or a lower payoff. Therefore, by bidding higher than your valuation, you will either get the same utility or a lower utility. Similarly, bidding lower than your valuation either gives you the same payoff as bidding your valuation or gives you a lower payoff. We have seen this last lecture. Therefore, follows that bidding lower than your valuation either gives you the same utility as bidding your valuation or gives you a lower utility. Therefore, follows that even with risk aversion, bidding your valuation is the dominant strategy for a bidder in a second price. Okay? Therefore, I have shown you that if it is a second price auction, bidders in equilibrium, bidders will bid their true valuation. B1 is equal to B1, B2 is equal to B2 in a two-bidder case. On n bidders, B3 is equal to B3, Bn is equal to price equal to the second highest bid, that is equal to the second highest bid. And therefore, the revenue that you get from the second price auction with risk neutral bidders and with risk averse bidders will be the same revenue. Whether bidders are risk averse or risk neutral does not matter to you if you are conducting a second price auction. On the other hand, bidders' optimal bidding strategies change for a first price auction. How do they change? Let me demonstrate that. I'm using two bidders, and to simplify matters, I will use standard uniformly distributed values. The same argument will work with any other distributed values, VI, and I will give my bidder a utility function. W is equal to root W. I'll give my bidder a utility function. And what will happen now is this. A bidder is still deciding what bid will maximize his payoff from winning. But payoff now, I am risk averse, is not measured in dollar terms, it will be measured in utility terms. The structure of the problem remains the same. I am bidder 1, I am choosing B1. The moment I choose B1, I expose myself to a lottery. And that lottery I might win or I might lose. If I win, I will get B1 minus B1, but notice this is a dollar value. I am risk averse. I really don't care about this. I care about the utility that I get. If I lose, I will get a payoff of 0. But I don't care about the dollar value. I care about the utility value. So I get the utility of 0. Okay. These are the utilities I will get from winning and losing the auction. Therefore, the expected utility, other than the expected payoff, the expected utility of this probability node can be written as this. Expected utility, which is a function of my bidding B1 and the other guy bids B2, can be written as probability of winning times the payoff from winning. Payoff is really not a dollar value now, it is my utility value, root B1 minus B1, plus probability of losing times the utility of losing, which is 0, so this term will cancel. Okay. And clearly guys, whether I am risk averse or risk neutral or risk loving, that is not going to change the probability with which I win. It will still be the same. Probability win is equal to probability B1 greater than B2. Then you will replace B2 with FB2, make B2 the subject of the formula. You will get probability of win and probability B2 less than B1 over F. Same probability. That does not change. And B2 less than B1 over F, we found out is this line segment over this line segment, B1 over F over 1, which is B1 over F. Right? B1 over F. B1 minus. Got it? This is the expected utility of bidding B1 when the other guy is B1. My problem still remains the same. I am choosing a value for B1 to maximize my expected. That's what I am trying to do. Okay, previously I was maximizing my expected payoff at dollar value simply because I was risk neutral. Now I am maximizing a utility expected. Okay, if you want to do that, you will find that DEU over DB1 is deriving a first order condition. Product rule again, you will find that hold this constant B1 over F, differentiate this, you will get half B1 minus B1 to the power of minus half times minus 1 change plus B1 minus B1 square root to the power half rather, differentiate this, you will get 1. This is your first check. You will set it equal to 0 and you will get an expression for B. And if you do it, you will get B1 star, this is top of page 23, B1 star is equal to 2/3. Got it? Bidders' optimum strategy in a first price scheme bid auction with two bidders and standard uniformly distributed values is to bid 2/3 of its value. Is to bid 2/3. bidder was bidding under the same framework, he was bidding half his salary. Clearly, when risk-averse bidder bids more. Risk-averse bidder bids more compared to a risk-neutral bidder in a first price auction. In a second price auction, it does not matter. Both bidders will bid the same amount because it's the dominant. But with the first price auction, a risk-neutral bidder bids lower than a risk-averse. Therefore, the revenue generated on average for the seller from a first price auction with risk-averse bidders will be greater, because bidders bid more. The revenue generated by a first price auction on average with risk-averse bidders will be greater than with risk-neutral bidders. So if a buyer is going to conduct a first price auction, if a buyer knows that let us all the bidders in this class are risk-averse, I know I want to sell my sunglasses, all the bidders in this class are risk-averse, what form of auction mechanism will I choose? I will choose a first price auction. Okay, I will choose a first price. That gives me a higher revenue on average compared to a second price. Revenue equivalence theorem breaks down when bidders are risk-averse. When bidders are risk-averse. That's an important point. Okay. So when bidders, what is the intuition? Why do bidders more, guys? Why do bidders bid more when they are risk-averse? The idea is the reason. Look, the reason why I bid lower. You remember this? We did this. The reason why I don't bid my valuation in a first price auction is because if I win, I'll get a payoff of zero. Therefore, I want to bid lower than my valuation. And as I keep lowering my bid, I told you two things happen. My surplus increases from winning. Yearly my surplus increases. But my probability of winning decreases. Probability of winning decreases. And if the probability of winning decreases, my probability of losing increases. And if I lose, I make a zero payoff. Zero payoff. Therefore, if I am risk-averse, you can see I would hate to lose whatever little I can win also. Suppose I bid this much. There is a high chance of my winning, but I only made this payoff. The difference between D1 and D2. Here, I can make a greater payoff, but there is a higher chance of my losing. Losing means I am even not getting this payoff. I am losing even this payoff. I will get zero if I lose. So if I am risk-averse, intuitively, in order to lower the probability of my losing the auction altogether, making a zero payoff altogether, I am willing to give up some surplus from winning. I am willing to bid a bit more. I am willing to bid a bit more. That's the idea. By bid lower, surely there is a chance that my payoff from winning will be higher. But there is a greater chance that I might lose and get zero. I don't want that. I am risk-averse. So I am willing to give up some of these payoffs. Some of these payoffs in order to increase the probability. So we looked at what happens to the optimal bidding strategies when bidders are risk-averse. Now consider the other case. Let's say bidders are risk-neutral and sellers are risk-averse. Bidders are risk-neutral and sellers are risk-averse. Now you just need to know this result, guys. The proof is not a part of your syllabus. For those of you who are statistically inclined, who don't mind integration, there is a simple example in your study guide, okay? I think it's example 5.2 in your study guide. You can have a look at it. It's not part of your syllabus. So I'm going to ignore it, but I'll give you the result anyway. Now look, so bidders are risk-neutral, but sellers are risk-averse. I'm trying to figure out what would sellers prefer. Would they prefer first price auction or would they prefer second price auction? Now, sellers, if they are risk-averse, they care about two things. They care about two things. When they want a first price, suppose they choose a first price auction. Clearly, a first price auction exposes them to a lottery. And that lottery has an expected payoff. What is that expected payoff? This is the expected payoff, expected price of a first price will be. If I choose a first price auction, I don't know my my actual revenue will depend on which fellas turn out for the auction. In other words, my actual revenue will depend on whether the auction involves the Monday group, Tuesday group, Wednesday group, Friday group, or Thursday group. So I am looking at the expected. Similarly, in a second price auction, I will be exposing myself to a lottery because I don't know which group it is that I am auctioning. Therefore, I am looking at the expected payoff of second price CUB. And you know that if bidders are risk neutral, the expected payoff at this probability node and the expected payoff at this probability node are the same. Sellers are risk averse. They don't just make their decision based on expected values, they also consider the riskiness of the two probability nodes. Riskiness, I mean variance. Variance of the price, I mean variance of P and PSP and variance of P. Not just the expected payoff, it is also the riskiness of it. And I am going to give you the claim and then you tell me which one the seller will prefer. I am telling you that the variance in a first price auction is smaller than the variance in a second price. Okay, I am just giving you this graph. So the expected payoffs are the same for first price and second price auctions, but the variance of first price auction is smaller than the variance of a second price. In other words, the first price auction is less risky than the second price auction. Payoffs are the same on average and the first price auction is less risky. Therefore, the sellers, if they are risk averse and bidders are risk neutral, they would prefer the first price auction over the second price. Okay. So sellers, if buyers are risk averse, sellers prefer a first price auction over a second price auction because they get a higher revenue. If sellers are risk averse and buyers are risk neutral, sellers will also prefer a first price auction over a second price auction because the first price auction is less risky than the second price auction. Same expected payoff, but less risky. Okay? Alright. So that brings us more or less to the end of our discussion of private values auctions. Okay? So far, all the auctions that we have discussed, we have analyzed the auction using the assumption that it is a private valuation auction. In other words, bidders have their own privately known valuations for a good. Now, I will briefly consider the other type of auction called common value. Okay, you will recall from my discussion in the first lecture on auction that if you encounter a common value auction in the examination, the treatment, the examiner will expect you to respond to it qualitatively, not quantitatively. Okay? I have given you a description of common value auctions in the lecture note. Your study guide also has a concise description. So I am briefly going to introduce this to you, right? And I will expect you to read up on this on your own. Our treatment of common value auctions will be qualitative. Okay. Now, what is a common value auction? You will recall a common value auction is an auction where there is such a thing as the true value of the good being auction. Call it B. True value of the good being auction. Remember the envelope with the money. True value. There is such a thing as a true value. Does not depend, does not vary from bidder to bidder. There is a true value. You will also recall that bidders might not know this true value. Right? It is quite likely that bidders don't know this true value. Therefore, bidders will only have estimates of this value. If there are n bidders, then bidders have estimates of the value. Estimate. And this estimate of the value is related to the true value in this manner. The estimate that the bidder has is equal to the true value plus some estimation error. Any estimate is equal to the true value plus some estimation error. Now notice something. If this value for a bidder is greater than 0, that means the bidder is overestimating the value of the good. If this value for the bidder is less than 0, the bidder is underestimating
this wallet in class right now, I can guarantee you, for many of you, I mean, clearly this wallet, the value depends on how much money is there inside it. So there is such a thing as the true value of this wallet, depending on how much money is there inside it. But if I ask you, each of you, how much money do you think there is inside it? I can guarantee you that some of you will overestimate and some of you will underestimate. And that allows me to make the assumption that on average, the estimation error is 0. On average, the expected value of the expectation of the estimation error. The estimation error on average. And the estimation errors are not just 0, they are independent of each other. If I take any two bidders and I find out whether she has overestimated and by how much, that allows me in no way to predict how much he will overestimate or underestimate. They are independent of each other. Just by knowing one fellow's estimation error, I cannot tell how much the other fellow will underestimate or overestimate the value by. With this in mind, that you notice something very, very, very strange happens with the common value option. With the common value. Okay. So suppose I assume that bidder estimates, are distributed. Let me normally distributed. My treatment of this is going to be qualitative. Okay? So don't worry about the normal distribution. It's going to be qualitative. Doesn't matter. You don't have to do the normal distribution. Now suppose bidder's estimate. I am plotting bidder's estimate here. Bidder's estimate is normally distributed. There will be some overestimates, some underestimates. Clearly, my assumption is that the estimation error, the average estimation error is 0. When the average estimation error is 0, when the estimation error is 0, the estimate is equal to the true value. So let's call this the true value. This is the mean of the estimate. All the estimates added up and divided by the number of estimates. This is the average value of the estimate which is equal to the true value. Now notice that. So this is, there are several bidders there. Bidders' estimates are distributed along this line. Some estimates are here, some estimates are here. Estimates are distributed along this line. Notice something very, very funny that happens. If bidders participating in this common value option bid equal to whatever they estimate the value to be, bid equal, which of these guys will win the auction? Guy that will win the auction will be this guy. He has the highest estimate. He will win the auction. He has the highest estimate. Highest estimate. So if he bids this amount, he will win the auction. And if he wins the auction, it's the first, say it's the first price auction, he will have to pay this price. He will have to pay this price. Therefore, what is his payoff? His payoff is the true value of the good minus whatever price he pays. Means call it B1 hat. B1 hat. And what do you notice now? The true value is here. The price he is paying is here. The winner of the auction wins, but suffers from a negative payoff. This phenomenon is called the winner's curse. You win, but you only win because you have overestimated. Win, only win because you have overestimated value. Even if it were a second price auction, this guy would have still won the auction. What would have paid? He would have paid the next highest. Still, this price is greater than the value. You win the auction. You are cursed anyway. So the moment you participate in a common value auction and you discover the auctioneer calls you and says you have won the auction, instead of taking the champagne out, you should start crying. Because you know you have won only because you have overestimated. On average, and this disclaimer I am making, guys, now again, this distinction is very important. I am saying that on your payoff will be negative. This is not true for, and otherwise there cannot be common value options, right? I mean, if this is true, you surely cannot have a common value option, because whoever wins is going to cry, so I might as well not participate. You must understand the distinction between one particular option and overall. So it is quite possible that the bidders who turn up for one particular common value option are only these bidders. It's quite possible. In such a case, I will not suffer from a winner's curse. In this particular auction, not suffer from a winner's curse. Not suffer from a winner's curse. It is quite possible that the bidders who turn up for the auction are these three bidders. In such a case, regardless of who wins, they will suffer from a winner's curse. This winner's curse phenomenon is an average phenomenon. On average, if you do the auction many times, then the winner, on average, will have a negative rate. On average, not for any particular common value, but on average, if you conduct the common value auction many times, the winner will have a negative rate. So what should you do? In order to eliminate the problem of suffering from the winner's curse, what should you do? You say, Sovan, I know that this is the distribution of estimates. I am here. On average, I am here. Not that I am here. On average, if I win, I am here. On average, if I win, I am here. So I have got this winner's curse problem. What am I going to do? I am going to discount my bid. Whatever my estimate is, that's not what I am going to pay. I am going to discount my bid. That means, if this is the distribution of my estimates, I will make sure that the distribution of my bids, of all the guys' bids, is like everyone knows that if I am winning, there is a good chance I am being first. There is a good chance I am only winning because I have overestimated. So everyone will want to bid below their estimate. Below their estimate. Now you can ask me the question. So when you said this is a first price auction. In a first price auction, anyway you are not going to bid your estimate, right? You should bid lower, otherwise you will have no payoff from winning. I am saying that with the common value auction, you will discount your bid twice. Once to account for the fact that you want to make some positive payoff from winning, once for that, and once to account for the fact that there might be a winner's curse involved here. So you will discount your bid twice. Double discount in a common value. So that's it. Take into account the fact that you want to make a positive payoff to win, and the fact that you might be winning by overestimate. Okay? So you discount. So if this is the distribution of your estimate, this red line describes the distribution of bid. Some factor is so a guy who on average was estimating this much will no longer on average bid this much. Rather he will bid, this is D, right? Rather he will bid and notice, even with that amount of discounting, I have not completely eliminated the problem of the winner's curse. I have just minimized the probability of my suffering from winner's curse. There is still this probability that I might suffer from winner's curse, but I have minimized it by discounting my bid below my estimate. I have minimized it. The next question you will ask me, Sovan, then you were just being silly. Why don't you discount a bit more so that this number, this figure moves to the left here or stays here, whatever. Why don't you discount it a bit more? I would say, what would I say? If I knew the exact amount to discount by, I would not be overestimating in the first place. Right? The fact that I am overestimating means I don't know the true value of it. Therefore, I don't know how much exactly to discount it. I don't know. So I don't have an optimal discount. All I know, however, guys, is that if the bidders, there are more bidders participating in a common value auction, I better discount by factor, the amount you should discount your bid below your estimate depends positively on the number of bidders. More bidders, you better be more careful. And why is that? It is because of this. Look, I am going to use an uniform distribution. Subject guide, but it is a question that is relatively commonly observed in the question papers. Okay, so I have decided to put it in your lecture procurement option. And I will start by giving you a broad idea of what procurement options are. Right? So far, the options we have considered have been options where there is one seller, and several buyers bidding for the goods. Several buyers bidding for the goods. A procurement option is an option, on the other hand, where there is one buyer and several bidders, several sellers are bidding to sell the goods. So for example, when SIM buys these screens to hang in its lecture theatre, several bidders will tender to provide SIM with these screens. Several bidders will tender to provide SIM with these screens. Several sellers will tender to provide SIM with these screens. When the Singapore Armed Forces or the Air Forces wants to buy military equipment, several sellers of military equipment will tender to supply Singapore Armed Forces with the equipment at a given price. That sort of an option is called a procurement option, where a buyer is trying to procure something and sellers are bidding to supply. Okay, that's the procurement option. And once you get the logic behind the procurement option, the analysis of it is very, very simple. And this is the logic. Now, if you look at a sale auction, what do I assume? I assume that buyers' valuations are uniformly distributed, say, between BL and B. I assume this. In a sale auction, I assume this. And I say that, let's look at a second price auction, for example. I say that, or in a first price auction, the buyer's payoff from winning the auction is the valuation that he has for the good minus the price he pays for the good. This is what the payoff from winning the auction. With a procurement option, ladies and gentlemen, if I ask you, the bidders are sellers here, okay? This is seller 1, seller 2, seller 3, seller 4. What is the valuation of the good to the seller? Your answer will be, don't talk nonsense. Sellers don't have valuations, only buyers have valuations. Sellers have what? Sellers have costs. Then cost. When I want to quote a price to SIM at which I want to supply him this screen, I must take into account what my cost of procuring this screen. What is my cost? So, compared to sale auctions with procurement auctions, I will assume this. Sellers have costs that are uniformly distributed between CM and CM. And sellers pay off from winning the auction. If I win the auction, if I have quoted you a particular price for this, and SIM says, okay, so when you can supply me, my payoff from winning the auction is the price that I have quoted, the price I have received, minus my cost. Pi minus P, here it is P minus P. I am bidding on P, that means Pi minus P. Whatever I bid to receive from you, here this is also a bid, but this is whatever I bid to pay. Here this is what I bid to receive. Okay, that is my payoff from winning the auction. Okay, payoff from okay, just as sale auctions can be first price or second price auctions, procurement auctions can also be first price or second price auctions. If a procurement auction is a first price auction, let's look at second price. If a procurement auction is a second price auction, it means that the buyer, SIM, will choose the bidder who bids the lowest, no longer the highest. In a sale auction, the seller chooses the buyer who bids the highest and then charges the next highest bid. Here, in a procurement auction, I will choose the seller who bids lowest and I will pay him
the next highest. It's just the reverse. It's a mirror image of a sales auction. Okay, I will pay him the next highest. In a first price auction, what happens in a sale auction? I will choose the bidder with the highest bid and I will make him pay that price. In a first price procurement auction, I will choose the bidder with the lowest bid and I will give him that price. I will supply myself. That's the procurement. And once you understand how procurement and sales auctions are related, you should be very easily be able to figure out that if it is a second price procurement auction, bidders have a dominant strategy, that is to bid their true cost. Just as bidders have a dominant strategy here, that is to bid their true valuation. Here, bidders have you should go back and try to prove all this to yourself. There is a part in your lecture notes that I try to tell a bit of. Okay, bidders have a dominant strategy, that is to bid their cost in a second price. But in a first price auction, that can't be a dominant strategy. There can't be a dominant strategy because if you bid your true cost and you win the auction, what will your payoff from winning be? Zero. Seller, your cost is $50. You have told SIM that you will supply this for $50. SIM says, okay, very good. You find out that your payoff is $50 minus $50 fee. You get no payoff from it. Therefore, in a first price auction, your dominance, your optimal bidding strategy should be to bid more than your cost. Just as in a sale auction, your optimal strategy is to bid less than your valuation. Here you can bid more than your cost. To make some payoff from winning, bid more than your cost. Bid more than. What will be the optimal bidding strategy then? Suppose there are 10 bidders bidding to supply SIM with this screen. 10 bidders, okay? 10 bidders bidding to supply SIM with the screen. The fourth bidder comes up to me and says, Sovan, how do I pay? I said, never mind. What is your cost? He says, C4. I should assume that is the lowest cost. Assume that is the lowest cost. And assuming that is the lowest cost, you find out what is the expected next highest cost. Find out what is the expected next highest cost. Whatever the expected next highest cost here is, you bid that. That's what I've done. Can you see the reverse? The mirror image, how procurement auctions are mirror images of sales auctions. So then, what will I do? What is the expected next highest cost? Imagine, how many people are here? Say there are 10 bidders, right? The 10 bidders were here. But here, bidder 4 is from here. Therefore, how many bidders are here? 9 bidders are here. N is equal to 9. Okay. I'm using what is BL, in our case CL here. CL is just this, C4. What is CH? CH remains wherever it is, CH. CH. And I am looking for the lowest valuation. That is N minus 1 fellas here, N minus 1 fellas. Okay, N 9 fellas. I am looking for the lowest valuation. The lowest valuation amongst 9 bidders is equal to the what highest valuation? The 9th highest valuation. Formula number 4, EK. K stands for the expected KF highest valuation. So if you are looking for the lowest valuation amongst 9 bidders, you will look for the expected 9th highest valuation. K is equal to 9. The lowest valuation is expected to be N highest valuation. Amongst 9 bidders, the lowest valuation is expected 9th highest. K is equal to 9. Substitute all of this into your formula number 4, you will get the 9th lowest valuation, the 9th highest or the lowest valuation in this distribution. You tell bidder 4 to bid 4. Okay, tell bidder 4. Where is procurement option? It is completely a mirror image of sale option. Revenue equivalence theorem, in this case the price equivalence theorem, will hold as long as both bidders and sellers are options per se. Let us start by looking at question I have in mind is this. 2011, Zone A, question 3. This is the question. So Alex is considering auction formats to sell an antique. Alex is considering auction formats to sell an antique. There are three potential buyers, bidders, Ben, Charlie and David, whose valuations are given to you. Valuation of Ben is equal to 2. Valuation of Charlie is equal to 5. Valuation of David is equal to 8. Okay, three bidders with this valuation have come for the auction. The bidders know their own valuation. Ben knows this, Charlie knows this, David knows this, but they don't know each other's valuation. What is common knowledge? Ladies and gentlemen, what is common knowledge is that bidders' valuations are distributed uniformly between 0 and 10. In other words, even though Ben doesn't know what Charlie's actual valuation is and David's actual valuation is, he knows that both of them have come from this distribution. Okay, both of them have come from this distribution. Alright. Okay, first question. What is Alex's revenue if he uses an English option? So, revenue, English option. Alex's revenue when he uses an English option. There are two ways of doing it. First way is you have to tell me. First way of doing it is to just use the rules of the English option. What are the rules? Look, there are three guys are there. Ben, Charlie, David. Their valuations are this. I am auctioning $1. What happens? You remember in an English auction, players have a choice between two actions at any price level. Stay in the room, drop out of the room. Either stay in the room or drop out of the room. $1. What will happen? All three, Ben, Charlie, David will remain in the room. $2. What will Ben do? Drop out. Ben will drop out at $2. If he stays on, he will make a negative profit, even if he wins the auction later. Okay? No point staying on. Might as well go home, watch TV, drops out. Ben drops out, Charlie and David are there, still. $3, Charlie and David remain. $4, Charlie and David remain. $5, Charlie drops out. The moment Charlie drops out, there is a single bidder left in the auction, that is David, the auction comes to an end. The moment there is one last bidder in the auction comes to an end. Who wins the auction? David wins the auction. What price does he pay? The price at which the auction comes to an end. That is the price at which Charlie drops out. That is, so he pays the price equal to Charlie's pay. So the price that Alex will get in this auction is $5. David will win the auction, Charlie will pay a price of $5. Therefore, the revenue that Alex will make, okay, just use the rules of the auction. The other thing you can say, the other way of answering this question is this. You must give me a reason showing that the English auction is equivalent to second price sealed bid auction. Not enough just to make a claim, okay? You must give me a reason. Why? If you claim that English auction is the same as the second price auction, you must give me why. So you can make that claim. Demonstrate equivalence between English and second price. Then say, in a second price auction, we know that bidders' dominant strategies are to bid their valuation, which means this fellow will bid. The bid that he will make is 2, the bid that Charlie will make is 5, the bid that David will make is 8. These will be the bid. This is the second price auction. Therefore, David will pay a price equal to the second price, which is 5. Same thing. You will get this. And that is precisely what part 2 of the question asks. What is Alex's revenue if he uses a second price sealed bid auction? So, guys, one important thing I must tell you. When you are looking at first price and second price auction, and I ask you what is the equilibrium price, who will win? You remember what I am asking you is for the equilibrium outcomes of the game. Who will win? What price will he pay? Is the outcome of this auction game. Anytime, in any game, in order to determine the outcome of the game, you must first have the equilibrium strategies of the player. Equilibrium strategies. And I have determined here, in a second prize game, the equilibrium strategies of the player is this. BB is equal to 2, BC is equal to 8. a Nash equilibrium set of strategies in the second price. Okay, Nash equilibrium set of bidding strategies. Once you have determined these equilibrium strategies, then you can comment on the equilibrium outcome. What will happen when bidders are using their equilibrium strategy? That's the equilibrium outcome. What will happen? David will win. Second price auction, by the rules of the auction, he pays a price equal to the second highest bid. Second highest bid is 5. David will win. The price that will be realized will be 5. The revenue that will be realized in the second price will be low. The third question asks me this. Determine the bidder's equilibrium strategies in a first price sealed bid auction. This is part C. Determine bidder's equilibrium strategies in a first price sealed bid auction. What is Alex's revenue if he uses this type of auction? Alex's revenue if he uses this type of auction. Well, very simple. The revenue question is very easy to answer, I say. The revenue from a second price sealed bid auction is 5. By a revenue equivalence theorem, the revenue from a first price sealed bid auction is also 5. Correct? Correct? It's wrong. Don't write it down. I want you to tell me it's wrong. It's wrong. You can't do this. Why can't you do this? And that's precisely the reason I have been talking about it. Why can't you do this? Why can't you do this? There are two reasons for it. First of all, you will tell me one thing. Sovan, this equation is wrong. The revenue equivalence theorem says, on average, the revenue in the two auction formats will be the same. On average. Therefore, the revenue equivalence theorem does not say this. It says the expected revenue will be the same. On average. On average. On average. This is one particular auction. Look, the bidder's valuations are known to us. One particular auction. This is like auctioning my sunglasses in a Monday. Not on average. On my Monday. Or Tuesday, whichever group. This is one when bidder's valuations are known. It is referring to one particular auction. You cannot compare the second price auction revenue with the first price auction revenue. Had I not given you this, had I not given you bidders' valuation, I had just told you there are 3 bidders uniformly drawn from this uniform distribution. Then you have no choice but to find out on average what will be the revenue generated by the SPSU and on average what will be the revenue generated by it. Okay, had I not given you actual valuations, only a distribution, then you use the revenue equivalence theorem on average. I have given you valuations, right? The revenue equivalence theorem does not hold or it is not required to be. You cannot hold. It is very, very important conceptual. Okay? Alright. So no, not true, okay? Not true. So in order to find out, I have to actually look at what happens. There are 3 bidders. Look, n is equal to 3. N is equal to 3. I already know n bidders distributed between, I know only for 0 and n. Okay, at least I know this, right? I know the general case. In the examination, you have to deduce what is the optimal bidding strategy for a bidder with 3 bidders. That means you have to find expected payoff for bidder 1, expected payoff for bidder 1 as a function of B1, B2 and B3. You have to get this function exactly as we did before. That means you will say probability of winning is probability B1 greater than B2 and that means times probability B1 greater than B3. So for bidder 1, the probability that you will win with a bid of B1 is this. Is this. The payoff you will get from winning is B1 minus B1. Then you will use this to find it out from here. What is B1 greater than B2? First you use your beliefs. Probability B1 greater than FB2. You always assume bidders are bidding a linear fraction of their values. This is probability B1 greater than F. This makes it, this probability becomes probability B2 less than B1 over F.
becomes probability B3 less than B1 over F. Okay, you know this by now. B2 less than B1 over F, arbitrarily choose B1 over F. So B2 less than this is B1 over F minus 0 B1 over F divided by 10 minus 0 which is 10. So B1 over F over 10. This probability value is B1 over F over 10 square. This times the same probability times B1 minus B1. This is your expected payoff. BPI B1 comma B2. Then you will differentiate this with respect to B1, solve and get the value of B1 star. So say, you can solve it, I'm not going to solve it here. So when you differentiate, you get this. Say you get B1 star is equal to 1 quarter B1. I get this value. I solve for B1, say I get this value, 1 quarter B1. Then what will be the price in this auction? I know that David will bid 1 quarter of 8. Charlie will bid 1 quarter of 5. What will each of them bid? Each of them is bidding 1 quarter of their valuation. Therefore, the Nash equilibrium set of strategies in the first price sealed bid game will be this. 1 quarter B1. B1 is 2. 1 quarter 2 for Ben. This is Ben's bid, comma 1 quarter 5 for Charlie. This is Charlie's bid. 1 quarter 8 for David. This is David's bid. This will be the Nash equilibrium set of bidding strategies. Therefore, who will win? David will win. How much will he pay? This much is for first price. Okay. This will be the price realized in a first price.